Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
Things that bother you never bother me. I feel happy and fine. Ha-ha! Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
When I talk about Mark 6, I'm going to go off on a bit of a rant, but it's still on topic of the armor, so bear with me. Also, I'm going to talk about the Chief's armor in the campaign, and I'm going to group Gen 1 and Gen 2 together because they're pretty much the same except Gen 1 has a cod piece and a slightly different chest. But both sets have the exact same problems. They don't look like Mark 6. They do in the sense that all the details are there, but the shapes and proportions are way off. It's really hard to explain, but it's just off. Almost inflated looking. All you have to do is just compare and you'll see what I mean. The truly noticeable differences are the chest and shoulders. The chest has that stupid angular look that we've seen so often in all the other chests. In case you haven't noticed 343, Master Chief's armor is supposed to form to his shape and look almost like traditional Spartan armor in design, not this. The shoulders look like octagon-shaped buns. You can argue that 343 squished them down to make it realistic, and that would be fine for an entirely new armor set, but when you have an established, iconic look, you leave it the fuck alone because it's already made its mark in fans and pop culture. I don't see Disney changing the Stormtroopers armor in new shows or films that take place in that era just because it's not practical or realistic. When you have a design that has been around for so long and is imprinted in people's brains, the time for change is long gone and the idea of change is now heresy. There is a reason why fans were excited to see the return of Chief's Halo 3 style armor, because that has been Master Chief's identity for about 10 years until Halo 4. And I think fans would have been a bit more accepting if there was a logical explanation for Chief's new design other than
nanobots,
a thing that has never been mentioned in any games or expanded lore. But no, just because there was a bullshit excuse in some interview that only 15% of the fans seen, suddenly it's supposed to be okay. Yeah, fuck you 343. The explanation should be in-game, and not have some external source trying to cover up a retcon. And to anyone that says it was explained when Chief woke up,
I rewrote your firmware while you were out.
You've been busy.
no, it wasn't. In case you didn't know, firmware is basically another word for software. So they explained why his heads-up display looked different, but not his armor. Okay, good. Now where's the rest? The fact that 343 shows early Covenant War flashbacks, with not only Spartans but elites as well using the new art style, is more than enough proof of 343 changing things for the sake of changing them. You can say that 343 just didn't have the time to make the assets, to which I say bullshit, because in early builds of the game they used assets from Halo Reach and Halo 3 as placeholders. And they had no problem using the Halo 3 Brute Chieftain model in the prologue. You can also say that the models were outdated, which means nothing. The graphics in Halo 4 are great, but the leap between Halo 3 and 4 isn't that big. And when it comes to the cutscenes like the prologue and epilogue, they used the in-game models and used more advanced shaders and processing and all that shit to make the in-game models look photorealistic, or at least better. It's what Blur did with Halo 2 Anniversary, it's what Bungie did with the marketing for Halo 3, and it's what 343 did for Halo 4 and 5. What does this mean? It means that 343 spent more time and money creating entirely new assets that were designed to retcon the old art style for no reason other than to change shit, when they could have saved time and money prettying up and reusing older and more iconic assets that would have made a less jarring transition from Bungie's games to 343's games, at least in terms of art style. The real kick in the balls here is that 343 has shown us plenty of times that they can reuse old assets. The Mark V Delta is a high-res version of the one from Halo 3, and all the other classic helmets are high-res versions of helmets from whatever game they came from. Now back to Mark 6 armor in multiplayer. It looks like shit. I'm gonna group Blue Team's armor together, same with Osiris. Argus and Hermes, or Linda and Kelly's armor, are both pretty similar, just slimmed down versions of Master Chief's armor. I actually like how Blue Team's armor shares similar designs. While I'm not a huge fan of the Gen 2 aesthetic, almost borderline hate, I still like how the almost uniform similarities were retained. Linda's helmet is horrifying though. Just give her the Master Chief helmet with a thin visor or something. That would look better than this. Ever since Halo Legends, Kelly has been depicted as wearing an EVA helmet. Well, other than that time when 343 was reusing old live-action suits from Halo Reach's marketing. I liked how 343 remained true to that, but that means she's using the shitty redesign. Wait, okay, apparently Kelly's helmet is an altered version of a shitty redesign. I have a pretty strong feeling that they just tweaked the EVA instead of reusing it so they can make it into a legendary rec unlock. I would have preferred a more traditional EVA, at least, but whatever. Centurion is great, once again staying true to what Halo Legends established. Fred's armor is basically a stylized version of Chief's. This is also the closest you'd get to having Chief's new armor in multiplayer. Really, 343? You add everyone else's armor except his. Now, I'm not a big fan of Chief's redesign, but it still would have been a nice option. I'd rather wear that than the other choice. Also, I'm gonna quickly get this out of the way. I don't like Chief's redesign.
Alright. Shoot.
Because it was a retcon just forced onto us rather than naturally being introduced, because that would mean Chief would start out with his old armor, and 343 has a hard time acknowledging the old art style. The fact that classic armor sets make up 5% of the roster is more than enough proof. Now that I think of it, why didn't 343 do that? They had a classic version of Chief's armor. Even though it looks like shit, it still would have been a decent attempt at making sense. Have Master Chief start out with that, then Lasky offers him a prototype for the Mjolnir Mark 7. Hire me, 343. My ideas are better than the shit you pull out of your ass.
Nanobots.
Oh, here's more proof this is a retcon. Chief still has scuffs and scratches on his armor, and the gash on his chest. I know they addressed that in Halo 5 because it's gone now, but that was an afterthought of the bullshit excuse made to cover their tracks once people started asking questions.
Nanobots.
You know, this is just ridiculous. The layers of bullshittery here. 343 retconned the old armor. They covered it up by using a late excuse.
Nanobots.
The excuse didn't make sense because of certain details like the gash being present, so to fix it, they retcon it again by making the gash suddenly gone in the next game. Moving on. The only one that sticks out to me is Buck's armor, Helljumper. Basically a beefed up ODST armor. The rest of them, I like Tanaka's helmet. I guess I like Locke's helmet too because it looks like Rogue from Halo 3. I like them when I'm not looking at them.
Things that bother you never bother me. I feel happy and fine. Ha ha! Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.